Hey guys, my name is Molly Gruber and this is Katie Harmon, and today we're going to be talking about what it's like being and working as a dance teacher. So Katie, she's a dance teacher. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm Katie Harmon. I am a professional dancer, teacher, and choreographer here in Chicago. I've been dancing since I was about 14, and then after that I went to college at UNC Charlotte, where I got my Bachelor of Arts in dance performance, choreography, and theory. And in my college years is when I really started teaching, but now I'm the principal dancer here at Aerial Dance Chicago. I'm also the program coordinator. I teach here at the School of Aerial Dance, and I teach out in the suburbs at several other studios.
Awesome. So tell me, how long have you been a dance teacher for since you graduated?
Okay, so I started teaching in about 2017, and so I've been teaching ever since.
So what kind of styles do you teach?
Okay, I teach ballet. That's been like the constant since I started teaching. But I also teach aerial dance on the silks, on the lira, on the sling. I also teach jazz, contemporary, contortion, and several other technique classes.
Awesome. So what made you want to decide to become a dance teacher?
Well, honestly, I first started teaching because I was like broke. I was in college and I needed the money. And when I first started teaching, I didn't like it at all. It was really just a job for me. But the longer that I invested my time in this career, the more passionate I've become about it. So as a dancer and someone who I like to make my own dance films, I like to produce my own work, I use my teaching as a vehicle to support my own arts, but also I find it really gratifying to just like build those relationships with my students and watch them grow and succeed.
Yeah, for sure. And then what are your hours as a dance teacher?
Oh my gosh, my schedule is different every single day. So with my professional dancing, I'm rehearsing 3-4 hours at a time, 3 times a week. And then usually after that, I'll go to teach in the afternoon. So if I'm teaching high schoolers or kids, it's always after school. And depending on where I go, if I'm commuting to that studio, then I might teach 7 hours at a time. I know, including private lessons. So that can be kind of difficult sometimes, but if I'm just teaching here at ADC, it's usually 1 or 2 classes at a time, so 2 to 3 hours.
Well, how did you go from a student to a teacher? Were you originally a student here or at Dixon, and then you decided to?
Sure. Well, as a student, I'm from North Carolina, so I was taking high school dance at my school, and then also at a private studio. And then in college, I was still a student, and honestly, I still feel like I am a student because I feel like I've learned so much about teaching as I progressed as a teacher. So I don't know that I ever stopped being a student. I'm still a student.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think are the hardest and the best parts of being a dance teacher?
The hardest part is definitely the toll it can take on your body, because like I said, I'll be on my feet, moving around, speaking loudly for 7 hours at a time. So after a day of rehearsal and a day of teaching, I go home and I feel like I have the knees of an old person. So it's really difficult to just keep up with the endurance sometimes, but that doesn't even compare to the best parts of my job. Like I said earlier, I love to build close relationships with my students and watch them succeed as they go on to college or into their professional life. But my favorite thing about my job is that it's not stressful. It's such a blessing to be able to create beauty and look at beauty and just experience all these happy moments with all these beautiful people every day when I go to work. It's really nice.
I know, it's a dream job. You're living the dream.
Thanks.
All right, so my next question for you is what is the pay as a dance teacher? Is it by salary, by class? How much do you usually make as a dance teacher?
Okay, so I think that this information probably varies a lot depending on the area that you're in as a dance teacher. So I teach here in the city and I teach in the suburbs. And now that I have a couple years of experience, my pay rate is a little bit higher, but usually dance jobs as teachers will start out around $25 an hour. For group classes, right now I make anywhere between $30 and $35 an hour. For private lessons, I usually charge a little bit more than that, so between $60 and $70 an hour for a private lesson. And then for like rehearsals and performances, of course, I am paid either hourly or a flat rate for performances.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. How do you help students that fall behind in class? Like if you see someone maybe like struggling to get the hang of a dance you're teaching, or just a little bit that started behind other students, like how would you help them like succeed as a student?
Sure. Well, like I said earlier, like I started dancing much later in life, so I really know what it's like to be in that place where you feel like everyone else in the room is more advanced than you or picking up the step a little bit quicker. So I have like a soft spot in my heart when I see students struggling like that. Sometimes all it takes is like to break something down and explain it, you know, in the tiniest little building blocks. My students know that like I have several sayings, like if we're working on pirouettes or leaps or something that requires a preparation, I always say like, if you don't prepare well, you're not gonna do the thing well. So sometimes we'll like take a step back and just focus on, you know, how do I begin to do this thing? And that can make all the difference. But other times, students might be struggling because they had a really terrible day, or they might be going through something like a difficult period in their life. And sometimes just taking a moment to let them know that like in my class they're safe and that I'm always gonna be there for them, and you know, nobody's gonna be mad if you mess up, is all it takes to like help that person succeed.
For sure. And I can agree with that. I was one of her students, guys,
Yes.
so she really helped me because I started late in life. I have a question for you. How old were you when you started dancing?
I was 14 when I started dancing, and I'm 25 now. So even if you start late, you can still become a
Yeah, because
professional.
a lot of times people are like, no, I didn't start when I was 2, but here she is, starting when she was 14. So how do you decide like who goes on your teams? Is there any like specific criteria when you're making teams as a dance teacher?
Okay, so I've been in like several instances where I had to lead an audition, or I was like conducting an audition to select dancers for my competition teams or for, you know, special programs here at ADC. Of course, like when you go to an audition, you want to have, you know, incredible technique, incredible artistry, but some things that I look for that really set dancers apart, I look for someone who's not afraid to make a mistake, someone who's not afraid to like try something even if they don't know exactly, you know, what the step is or what I'm asking for. They're not afraid to like just go for it and put themselves out there. That tells me a lot about how, you know, that dancer would be in the choreographic process or when they perform on stage. I also look for dancers who are confident, and I don't mean that in like, ooh yeah, like I'm the best dancer here, but like someone who presents themselves in the room and like carries themselves with grace and poise. All these qualities like are gonna come out when I start setting choreography or when I bring my dancers to the stage. So to see that in the audition process is really, really important for me.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I think definitely, like, even if you don't get the hang of it like right away when you're in a dance like audition and everything, like if you just like try your hardest,
Yeah,
it's really important.
Yeah, like showing who you are as a dancer is more important to me than, you know, the girl who can kick their legs the highest.
Yeah, for sure. And then so you do like teach a lot of classes, you have a lot of teams. How do you prevent your dances from like looking the same if you're choreographing for like all the different people?
Okay, this is something that I'm like constantly paranoid about actually. When I first got hired, when I first moved here to Illinois, in my interview, my boss was saying that like prior to me taking this position, that a lot of the solos for the competition dancers were looking the same. And ever since then, I was like, okay, well, none of my dances can look the same. So if I am working with a dancer one-on-one, a good way to like prevent this is to really focus on what highlights that dancer's strengths. I've noticed a lot of choreographers like make dance that they would like to do, and you know, of course, you know, I'm generating the dance, so like of course it's going to be something that I would like to do, but if I can step away from that a little bit and think about like what is going to display the best things about this dancer, that helps me make different choices. I also am really, really interested in, you know, when I do create dance, that I always want to be like searching for something new or finding a new pathway or, you know, doing something unexpected depending on the setting that the dance is going to be shown in. So, you know, I employ like several different tactics to try to make my dances not look the same. The biggest one though is like me just being paranoid that they're gonna look the same.
Well, there you go. Something works.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. How did you learn to choreograph? I know obviously you were a student and then you just went to teacher. How did you learn to like choreograph? And like, what are your like techniques when you choreograph? What do you look for in like music and stuff?
Okay, so when I make art, when I make art, if it's a dance for the stage or a dance film, I think a lot about like the entire atmosphere of the piece. So I think keeping that in mind like helps me discover what kind of music I want. So it's really more about like the feeling or the overall ambiance of the piece than just the choreography. So once I find some music, or I might start with a movement phrase, I'll sort of like piece other bits of the dance together to create more like an atmosphere in the dance. But as far as like learning to choreograph, I can remember making dances with my friends on the soccer field when I was in like 5th grade, like at recess and things like that. So ever since then, I've just been like making dances. I think the best way to learn about choreography and how to construct is to just like do it and just keep putting it out and try not to judge whether it's good or not. It's more like about just like getting it out and like putting your voice out into the world. However, like in addition to that, I have taken lots of coursework in my college career and also at summer intensives like American Dance Festival that was like just very specifically about like dance composition and ways to construct choreography.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. I have a question. So there's just something that I feel like a lot of people fear when they go into like the dance world is injuries. Like, how would you deal with an injury, or how do you deal with injuries that happen since this is your like, career?
Even if you do become injured, I think that you could still be a really wonderful dance teacher. In fact, many people who have long and promising career as a teacher started out as professional dancers who became injured, unfortunately. As a dance teacher, it's not always about doing. It's about like the way you relate to your students and the way that you can convey information to them. I think the best way to deal with injury is prevention. Eating well, resting well, doing things to take care of your body outside of rehearsal are always going to help with that.
All right, guys, well, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to link Katie's Instagram down below and put it here on the screen. Make sure to go follow her because she has a lot of awesome dance videos. She's also going to be coming out with a film, so that's exciting. And make sure to follow my YouTube channel so you can hear more about careers and what it's like doing what. But we have another video coming about what the interview process is going to be like, so make sure to subscribe so you can see that. All right, bye, guys.